This module is a part of the training series for the POWER program, Positive Outcomes with Emotion Regulation. Today, we are going to talk about Group Meeting 4, which focuses on understanding and observing thoughts. Please take a few moments to review this disclaimer about this training module. Our objectives for the students this week are: describe how emotions, thoughts, and behaviors influence one another. Communicate the rationale for using the observing thoughts strategy. Identify the steps to using the observing thoughts strategy. And independently demonstrate the steps to the observing thoughts strategy. In group meeting 4, each student will need their student book, a writing utensil, and this week's challenge form. When you run the group meeting, you will need the agenda, the group expectations poster, and the challenge form that you completed from last week. For the activity this week, you will need to show a visual to the group, which can be found in the manual on page 86. This group meeting starts off like the others, with a review of the group expectations and agenda. You will do a guided practice of deep breathing and a review of last week's challenge. Then, you will talk about the emotions, thoughts, behaviors triangle, and the observing thoughts strategy. This group meeting ends with the week's challenge and a wrap-up. Just as with previous group meetings, this meeting begins with students completing their emotion monitoring log. Then students will review the expectations for the group before we review the agenda for the day. Next, you will guide students in practicing deep breathing. You will prompt them to review the box breathing visual in the student book. Using the script in the manual, you will lead the students in deep breathing. The challenge for last week was for students to select either a relaxation strategy or a behavioral activation strategy to try. Remind students of the challenge and then share with them your own completed challenge form. Share why you selected the strategy, when and how you used it, and how it made you feel. After you share your experiences, ask students to share their own. If students were not able to complete the challenge, ask them to share which strategy they want to try, when, and how they will do it. In the next part of the group meeting, you will be introducing the emotions, thoughts, behaviors triangle. The triangle, pictured here, shows how emotions, thoughts, and behaviors are all related and influence each other. First, you will talk about emotions and introduce the concept that unpleasant emotions are not always bad, and in fact, can be important. Then you will share that thoughts are internal statements that run through our minds and are related to emotions. Encourage students to think about and share the thoughts they had the last time they were angry, then sad, then excited. Behaviors are the things we do, and thoughts and emotions also impact these. Students will share how they acted the last time they were angry, sad, or excited. For the activity, students will use page 17 in their student books, and you will show them the picture on page 86 of the manual. Prompt students to write down what the boy in the picture may be feeling, thinking, and acting. Then facilitate a discussion about each of these topics and how they are all related. This activity helps students see how closely our emotions, thoughts, and behaviors can be connected. And by changing one point on the emotion, thoughts, behavior triangle, we can affect the other points on the triangle. Next, you will talk about a strategy called observing thoughts. Here you will set the stage by explaining that because thoughts are based on our own personal understanding and viewpoint, thoughts are not always accurate or truthful. They are also not always helpful, especially when we have unpleasant emotions. When thoughts pop up in our minds, we have to decide if the thought is worth paying attention to. You can prompt students to think of examples of thoughts that are worth paying attention to and those that are not. Ask students not to think about a pink elephant. Point out that when you did this, the first thing they likely thought about was a pink elephant. Unpleasant thoughts can be like pink elephants. The more we try to make them disappear, the more we may think about it and then feel worse. So instead of trying to get rid of unpleasant thoughts, we can learn to observe them. We can look at the thoughts with no judgment. Instead, we can become thought detectives and decide if the thought is accurate and helpful or not. In the guided practice, select any object in your space and ask students to observe it. Ask them to observe their thoughts as they come up. What is the thought? How does it come and go? Is it slow or fast? How does the thought make you feel? How does it make you act? Do this activity for 30 seconds. For the independent practice and reflection, students will turn to page 16. Ask students to think about the last time they felt embarrassed and observe the thoughts they had about the situation. They will write these in the student book. Then, students will think about the last time they were really happy, observe their thoughts, and record them in the student book. Afterwards, ask for volunteers to share. The challenge for this week is for students to consider what the observing thought strategy looks like in their heads and bring in a picture depicting this. This module was designed to provide an overview for facilitating Group Meeting 4. See you next time for Module 5. This resource was developed by the Devereaux Center for Effective Schools and has been made available to you through the Substance Abuse and Mental Service Administration and the Northeast and Caribbean Mental Health Technology Transfer Center.